Sega recently announced the next batch of 11 Mega Drive Mini 2 titles, leading us to 44 total games now for the device. There were some real surprises in this update, but also nothing that really stood out as a killer app. Perhaps even more surprising is that Sega appears to be doubling down on making this a very Japanese product, with a number of additions that are almost guaranteed to not be on the US version. It's also important to note that 17 of the 20 Mega CD titles have been announced for the Mini 2, leaving a mere 3 left in the final show, barring any surprise additions. We are getting Echo the Dolphin CD, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 3, Tenka Fubu Roar of the Heroes, Denon Aleste, Shin Megami Tensei, Gain Ground, Sorcerion, Phantasy Star 2, King Colossus, Populous, and Viewpoint. Now that we know the list, let's take a closer look at exactly what these games are and whether you should care about any of them. Hope you guys enjoy this update for the Sega Mega Drive Mini 2. Our first title is Echo the Dolphin CD. This one is actually more than you may have guessed. When Echo 1 and 2 were released initially for the Sega CD in the West, there was no Japanese versions of those games. It wasn't until 1995 when that happened, and it came in the form of a compilation that contained both games. So here, this announcement is actually for both Echo the Dolphin and Echo the Tides of Time. That means you get 2 unique games and their killer CD soundtracks. You do of course get additional cinematics for the 2 games and Q-Sound technology. This is a great addition that adds 2 games that are huge in scope and challenge. Another dual addition to the Mega Drive Mini 2 is Romance of the Three Kingdoms 3. Here you get both the Mega Drive and Mega CD versions of the game. China has been thrown into chaos, and there are dozens of rulers vying for control. You must defend your land, conquer your enemies, and deal with the economic day-to-day ruling of a kingdom. It supports 8-player scenarios, so you can play with your friends, a rare thing for simulation-style strategy games of that era. The Mega CD edition is mainly different in its CD soundtrack. While this is a deep and well-designed experience with a North American Genesis English translation, I do not expect it on the US version of this device. The second war simulator in this lineup is Tenka Fubu. I wish I could tell you more about this one, but the developer Game Arts never did an English translation for it on anything. It appears to be very similar in style to Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Pick a scenario, defend and conquer. I love the look of the battles and the animation that plays out, but man, the multitude of Japanese text options crushes you unless you understand the language. This is absolutely guaranteed to be stripped from the US Genesis Mini 2. Many of you were hoping to see Robo Aleste, or Aleste, or Alesta, or whatever the hell you want to call it, and it's here in all its vertically scrolling glory. The interesting thing about this edition is the fact that it includes both the US and Japanese versions. You may be wondering why this is the case. Mainly it's because the US version was tweaked to be easier. In that edition, the dynamic difficulty did not punish you as quickly for playing well, and the yellow weapon has been made more effective. That means you get 2 more titles in one for this announcement. For those of you new to this one, it's part of the same series as Musha, and even though it has a number of gameplay differences, it's still an excellent addition. This was a big one and a huge surprise. Shin Megami Tensei was an Atlas-created RPG that was ported to the Mega CD by Sims in 1994. Of course, it was never translated to other regions, and it stayed a Japanese exclusive for the platform. The story in this one is wild. It has demons, different planes of existence, nuclear war, time travel, and a whole list of morality choices you can make on how all that plays out. Unfortunately, this particular edition remains untranslated, so expect it to be stricken from the US Mini 2. I had a feeling the System 24 arcade classic Game Ground would show up, and sure enough, here it is. This is a single screen run and gun where the goal is to survive from point A to point B. You have a team of fighters with different weapons and abilities. If one should fall, you can rescue them and get them to the exit. Lose the entire team and it's game over. So many people look past this because it's a rather simple looking title with small sprites and unremarkable play areas. But it also has some really fun gameplay and the music is absolutely incredible. It may seem so to some people, but this is no throwaway title. I fully expect it to be on the US version. Sorcerion is a part of the massive Dragon Slayer line of games from Falcom, and it's another one I haven't played much of. It's a side-scrolling action RPG where you complete a series of scenarios with characters you create. These heroes advance in age and abilities as you complete the scenarios. The Mega Drive version was ported by Sega themselves, and the scenarios were specific to this version of the game, though fewer in number. Here you get 10 instead of the original's 15. Of course, there was no US or European release for the platform, so it was never translated. That means it'll be absent from the Genesis Mini 2 without question. This one needs no real explanation. Phantasy Star 2 was a beast of an RPG early in the life of the platform. I remember the very first time I played it. It was so hard and I met a disastrous end time and time again. I wasn't big into RPGs at the time, but I was wanting 16-bit games to play so bad, I stuck with it and learned to play it. The Mini 2 version here comes with an easy mode to help newbies get started, which may help many of you deal with the first few hours a lot better. This one was of course translated and released in other regions, so I wouldn't be surprised to see it on the US edition. King Colossus is a Zelda-like action-adventure that was only released in Japan for the Mega Drive. I played through this some years back after I found an English translation for it. I must say, not only was it solid with some great music, but it really surprised me that Sega didn't bring it west. The Genesis didn't have many games of this type, and it could have really used it. If you have never had the pleasure, I'll throw a link in the description so you can check out that English translation. That'll likely be the only way non-Japanese reading players will enjoy it, because this is surely going to be stripped from the Genesis Mini 2. This was a real surprise because I never thought it'd be on this device in a million years. Populous was a god simulator, where you were pitted against another deity and must conquer them using your influence and power. It was played from an isometric perspective on a single screen, where the land, buildings, and characters appeared to animate on the pages of a book. The unique perspective was unlike anything I had played at the time, and the gameplay really hooked me. Your god powers could be used to create or destroy, and it was so cool to see your minions wreak havoc on your enemies. This was actually an unlicensed EA release when it first showed up, and would only work on the Genesis that didn't have the TMSS security. This one must have been really popular in Japan, because I never would have guessed its inclusion here. I'm so surprised, I would be shocked to see it appear on the US edition as well. Our final title was another surprise. Most US Genesis fans know that Viewpoint showed up on the platform thanks to American Sammy. It was a port of the Neo Geo original that puts you in mind of a zoomed-in Zaxxon sequel. What you might not know is that it was never released outside of the US for any other territory. That makes its inclusion here somewhat curious, but Sega was aiming for special releases, so this definitely qualifies for the Japanese Mega Drive. The port quality is of course nowhere near the original Neo Geo edition, with a steep cut in color, animation, and sprites on screen. I can't help but feel there were many other better Sega shooters that could have been here, but there also could have been a few much worse. Now that we've gone over the new announcements, let's do a full recap of every Mega Drive Mini 2 game announced so far.
シルフィードシャイニングフォース CD ソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグ CD 夢見館の物語ポップルメイル
村に戻っておとなしく暮らしてなさい。
バーチャレーシングボナンザブラザーズシャイニング&ザ・ダクネスサンダーフォース4マジカルタルルートくんそしておまけのボーナスタイトルも収録ファンタジーゾーンアウトランアフターバーナー2ライトストライカー忍者ウォーリアーズスターブレードスプラッターハウスパート2不思議の海のナディアメガパネル一段と R コラムス3対決コラムスワールドそしておまけのボーナスタイトルも収録スターモビールエイリアンソルジャー達人ファイナルファイト CD スーパーストリートファイター2画廊伝説2新たなる戦いああハリマナだギャンブラー自己中心派片山正幸の麻雀道場ルナザ・シルバースタールナエターナルブルーワンダーメガコレクションそしておまけのボーナスタイトルも収録三輪さんちゃんエコーザドルフィン CD ゲイングランドソーサリアン ファンタシースター2帰らざる時の終わりに、闘技王キングコロッサス、ポピュラス、三国志3、天下富舞、電人アレスタ、新女神転生、そしておまけのボーナスタイトルも収録。ビューポイント、さらに小さくより深く、新メガドラミニ登場。10月27日発売。
With 17 of the 20 Mega CD titles already announced, that doesn't leave much room for any real big hitters, particularly from the Japanese territory. That leaves a huge question mark on the Genesis Mini 2 and how that library will shape up in the end. There will obviously be a large amount of changes between the two regions, which leaves me with a smidgen of hope that the likes of Snatcher and Road Avenger may still have a chance. The fact that both regions will be so different is actually a huge attraction for me. While some of these Japanese games will be inaccessible, many will offer me something I can't get on the Genesis Mini 2. It also makes for a couple of interesting collector's items. Unfortunately, there is still no word on any other region receiving a version of this product. After hearing recently that so few units will be produced, I'm not so certain Sega intends to actually release anything more than a US and Japanese version. On that note, the coming weeks and months will certainly prove interesting. In the meantime, I'll be back soon when Sega reveals the final game list for the Mega Drive Mini 2, so I'll see you then. I'm Sega Lord X, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.